All right, you guys, my name is Dawn Tree, right? Your host. I'm your host. And I'm right here with Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. And she is the executive director of the Terence Crutcher Foundation, a Black Wall Street descendant, a consultant, and social justice practitioner. So, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's so good to be back here. I remember when you first launched this podcast. I think I was your first guest, and now was I your very first guest?
Maybe my second.
Maybe
I can't remember. I
think I was your first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you were definitely on the show.
And now we're kicking it off for Black History Month.
Right.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yes.
Glad and honored to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. You know,
awesome.
I see you doing so much work in the community, a lot, right? So how do you feel about that? You know, first and foremost.
How do I feel about doing a lot in the community? And
well, the new mantle within what? How long ago was it that we lost your brother, your twin brother?
Yeah, well, for those of you who don't know, I lost my twin brother, and man, coming in this office and seeing this shirt is amazing. Terence Crutcher, and that was 2016, and this past September 2023, we commemorated the 7th anniversary of his tragic killing, and it seems like it was just yesterday. And
it does.
And never in a million years did I think I would actually move back home officially, because I think when we talked last on your podcast, I was still living in Alabama, dividing my time between Alabama and Oklahoma.
Right.
And now I'm officially back home, and the work has expanded. We started out like on this mission and journey to hold police officers accountable, not just in Tulsa, but across the state of Oklahoma, in this country, to make sure what happened to Terence never happened again.
Right.
And I started to unpack, everything it was that we were doing, from the advocacy and the organizing, and I knew that it was going to take people to help us realize justice and accountability. And when I started talking to people, I realized that there was a lot of unmet needs in our community.
Okay.
And so started the work. So started, like, how do we
feel
the foundation? How do we fill gaps? How do we meet needs? How do we find our space in community to add value and be a part of the change that we want to see? And so 7 years later, I think we've been consistent, and we've done just that, and we've been able to turn generational trauma into this generational vision for justice and liberation, to truly prevent what happened to Terence from happening again, through the work of the Terence Crutcher Foundation and our family, and alongside community. So it's been pretty heavy, it's been pretty busy, it's been nonstop, but we have seen growth.
Right. Yeah, you definitely just said a lot right there. And I'm sure it took you a while to kind of process that and get to that point where you can even articulate it. Now, I kind of want to go to, not the beginning, but kind of start out, like, you grew up in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Right? So what high school did you go to?
I went to the Booker T. Washington High School, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Booker T. And grew up in Tulsa, born and bred.
So what year did you go?
I actually graduated in 95, one of the best classes to come out of Booker T.
They all say that.
And it's funny because I'm legacy. My aunts went there, my grandmother went there, my father, my mother, and my dad says that his class of 66, was the best class. My mom says her class, I think she was class of 70 or 71.
So that's, the Big Ten ballroom is right there.
Yeah.
So what are some landmarks that are around there?
Around Booker T. Well, back then when I was there, you had Wilson's Barbecue, because we would sneak and go there. They're no longer there.
Okay.
You have the Big Ten Ballroom. You have several churches in the area.
What's that street?
You have Rockford and Version that parallels the street there. Okay. You have Big Ten Ballroom. And then you have Lacey Park that's down the street, and
where I do a lot of activities.
Yeah, and so it's really embedded in community.
Right.
in community. And so
you just rooted in Tulsa.
yeah, my grandmother was right around the corner. We lived one block over my grandmother, my mom's mom, and so that school I've been around for.
So you and
years.
Terrence were like in the same grade.
We were twins.
Right.
We're twins, so
Right.
we were in the same grade. But Terrence didn't go to Booker T.
Oh, where he go?
He didn't want to go to Booker T.
Really?
He didn't want to go to Carver. You know, because Carver and Booker T were magnet schools, and so
Okay.
you had to apply and be accepted.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so he went to our home school, which was Madison
Okay.
Junior High, and then he went to the Central Braves, which some of my aunts went there too. So
Okay.
good rivalry.
So like middle school, y'all went to school together, and then
We
high school.
didn't elementary, so we went to Emerson Elementary, which was also a magnet school.
Okay.
So we were in elementary, and then he said, "I'm not going to Carver. I'm going to Madison with my friends.
Okay.
You can go over there."
I got
And,
you.
and so when I got to Carver, I remember Bobby Johnson was our principal.
Okay.
And she said, "Wait just a minute. We don't separate twins. We don't separate twins." And, but we were so close, our family, our community, so tight-knit. So it's not that we were separated. We were just in two different classroom settings, but still did everything together.
Okay.
Church together.
Yeah.
Summer
Our
programs
family.
together.
Right.
Vacation Bible school together.
Ate dinner together.
Ate dinner together. Running through the alleys together.
Right. So
My
speaking
friends-
of which, what are some of your fondest memories of Terrence? You know.
Fondest memories of Terrence is that he had this huge heart. He was very mushy, a big teddy bear, and
Is that mushy?
just a mushy teddy bear, because you would find, like, he was very popular. I think we all were. We all had our groups of friends, and
Okay.
so with four siblings in one household, and we all had our groups of friends, every group came to the house, and so we were the community house. We were the neighborhood house.
Okay.
Mom and Dad cooked for community, and
What street y'all live on?
Main Street, Cheyenne Street was Grandma Street in Denver.
I know
was
you
our hood.
mentioned Hartford too. Is that right?
That was North Hartford. That's where Walt Whitman. My mom taught at Walt Whitman
Okay.
Elementary. So my
All right.
mom taught a lot of friends. I always talk about North Hartford because when you talk about North Tulsa and people come to town and they talk about, you know, Black Wall Street, Greenwood, North Tulsa, and you've never been past Apache.
Right.
You've never been to 36th Street North. You've
Right.
never been to North Hartford.
Okay.
You've never
Turley.
been to Walt Whitman. You've never been to Turley.
Yeah.
So do you truly know
North
Tulsa, and that so many great people come out of North Tulsa.
Right.
So yeah, we did a
So,
lot together. And my fondest memory of Terrence, he
Yeah.
could sing.
Okay.
He could sing. He played the cello. I played the viola.
Okay.
He played
What
football.
kind of singing he do?
He loved gospel music.
Yeah.
He loved gospel. I mean, that's really the only singing I ever heard.
So what
Terrence
church
do.
y'all go to?
We started out, we grew up in St. John
Okay.
Baptist Church
All right.
off of North Troost. Remember growing up, being in the children's church, and then in middle school, we left the Baptist church and went to a non-denominational church.
Okay. Did he sing in the choir?
New Heights Christian Center.
Anything like
Oh
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was one of the lead tenors and lead soloists.
Okay.
Yeah, he sung in the
Fine.
choir. I did a little bit of singing, but wasn't my thing.
So he was taller than you?
He was way taller than me. I'm 5'3.5",
Yeah.
and he was 5. What was Terrence? 5'8", 5'9".
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Y'all are fraternal twins?
Fraternal twins, but we came out together 3 minutes
Yeah.
apart. He came
Okay.
out first,
All right.
and then I came out right after him.
Okay. So you baby sister.
Well, I was really the big sister. He would always say, "That's my little big sister."
Right.
But he would always tell me on our birthday, "Remember, I'm still the big brother." I came out first.
Yeah. Gotta do that. Right. Now, when did you leave Tulsa? You know?
I left Tulsa when I went to Langston University. Go Lions!
Okay, all right.
The only HBCU in Oklahoma.
Seriously.
Very significant. And so I went off to college.
What's your degree?
And Langston isn't far away, but I got a
Yeah.
degree in public health,
Okay.
and decided to continue and matriculate to another HBCU and follow my mentors to get a master's and a clinical doctorate in physical rehabilitation. And so
Okay.
I got my clinical doctorate there in Montgomery, Alabama, and then decided to stay in Alabama and open up my own clinical practice.
Okay.
And started treating patients.
Wow.
In the Black Belt of Alabama, historic Alabama, rural Alabama.
What part was that?
Union Springs, Bullitt County, right outside of Tuskegee.
Okay.
And Troy, Montgomery, and Eufaula. So right there in the heart of the Black Belt.
So you went to James W. Wright Leadership Development Institute?
Yep. So
never even heard of that.
Well,
and it's at HBCU, right?
No, it's actually just
okay.
It was the first all-Black leadership institute. So when we talk about leadership gurus, we talk about John C. Maxwell, a lot of the leadership gurus, and so this was the first all-Black leadership institute, I think, in the country. And James W. Wright actually founded first Tuskegee Bank.
Okay.
The sort of first Black bank in the country.
Okay.
And so he said, how do we develop Black leaders?
In Alabama?
In Alabama, first Tuskegee Bank,
Wow.
which is now Liberty Bank.
Okay.
And so we don't have a lot of Black banks in this country.
Right. That's very true.
But first Tuskegee was one of the first ones, and James W. Wright was the founder. And so his son, Neil, and Omar Neil, who is the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, along with Judge Johnny Hartwick, who's a Black judge in Montgomery, Alabama. Wow. They said we have to start building up the next generation of leaders to influence politics, to influence policy, to influence.
So they were literal like visionaries.
They got some of the best and brightest leaders, and they started teaching us about transformational leadership and the different types of leadership. Not transactional leadership, but transformational leadership, and that's when I really started to unpack my own personal leadership journey. And one of the themes that came out of this leadership institute was authentic leadership.
Okay.
And I remember this phrase, and I don't know who said it, but if you're taking a walk and you turn around and nobody's following you, or if you're a leader and you turn around and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. How do you get people to follow you without it being a quid pro quo, without it being, hey, I pay you to do a job, I expect you to do it.
Right.
So when we talk about transformational leadership and starting a movement, how do you get people as a leader to buy in to the work?
What'd you learn?
I think it was inspirational. I think it was being authentic. I think, it was truly developing other people and pouring into other people versus it being about self. And I think that's sort of what I learned, is that in order to get people to buy into something, first you have to get good at casting vision.
Okay.
Can people see themselves in your vision? Can people see themselves taking ownership? Will you drop the rope and tie a knot in the rope and say, hold on, I'm going to pull as I climb? That is transformational leadership, where it's not, I'm going to cut the rope because I'm a crab in a barrel and I don't want you to come with me.
Right.
And I've tried to embody that through the work that I've done, realizing that Tiffany can't do this alone. The Terence Crutcher Foundation can't do this alone.
Right.
We have to build a movement ecosystem in order to build true power to advance the policies that we need to advance and to tackle the issues that we need to tackle. And I can't do it all, but what I can do is say, hey, I know somebody who's doing it, or hey, here's some resources. I want to share these resources and do that. And I think I've tried to do that, and I'm still growing and learning and trying to figure out how we build sustainable power.
Okay. I know it's been a few years now, but I sat down with you and you were talking about, I'm going to shift it just a little bit, but Bloomberg had reached out to you and was willing to potentially fund your efforts and what you're giving back to the community. But I think you were hesitant to actually move with that proposal, which seemed like a substantial amount of money. But then I also want to talk about the Black Voices for Black Justice Fund, co-chaired by Kerry Washington, actor and activist. So if you could address that first, and then we can get into who you are actually working with?
Yeah, well, I think Mike Bloomberg was a presidential candidate, and he came to Tulsa, to Greenwood, to the Cultural Center.
Yes.
And announced this huge Greenwood initiative where he was going to invest, I think, millions of dollars. I don't even know if it got up to $1 billion, but millions of dollars to...
You got it.
Yeah, to advance the Black agenda, to build Black wealth, to close the racial wealth gap, and all of these things. And a lot of Black mayors across the country came down, and it was this big to do. And of course, when you're talking about Greenwood and the Black community and closing the racial wealth gap, who could be against that if we're for that?
Right.
But I thought it was important that, you know, we go and listen to what he is saying.
Of course.
We met with a lot of people who were there. I met with some of the people that were on his campaign, and they wanted for me to publicly endorse him. We took pictures with Mike Bloomberg, and when I started unpacking some of his policies as mayor of New York, stop and frisk, I was like, that's just not, conflicting. It's not what I stand for. Have you apologized? Have you acknowledged that that was wrong? Right. And I just don't think that I would take money to advance my agenda and harm was done and harm hasn't been repaired. And that was important to me, and I didn't want to be used as a pawn to help this agenda. You know, I think, you know, there's a fine line between compromising and selling your community out. And you know, I have values, and I mean, it was, you know, tempting, like, hey, what does the foundation need? Hey, what can we do to support? And I think Bloomberg Philanthropies, they do a lot of good work. They do a lot of good work outside of Mike Bloomberg himself, and he's actually invested a lot into the Democratic Party. I'm going to be clear. Let's talk about some of the things he has done. He helped, like, win the House when we didn't have it under Barack Obama. He invested so much money into Democratic campaigns to help shift the House back blue. And so, you know, I'm going to flow in facts, but when it really comes to, is this genuine and authentic, I just couldn't vouch for that, you know, because of the harmful policies against people who look like Terence and Terence Jr.
that he introduced.
Yeah, that he introduced and
hadn't reconciled with.
Reconciled, and I think that that's more important than anything.
Now, did you ask him to, or like address that? Or?
Well, a lot of people that I work in community with and in partnership with, i.e. the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, sued him several times.
Really?
Talked to him several times. If you looked at the presidential debates, I mean, you know, and so a partner of mine, like, I don't get to make a unilateral decision for the community and say, hey, I'm going to take this money for the community.
Right.
Whenever somebody makes me an offer that's going to affect the community, I have to sit down and talk to people. I need to talk to my partners in New York, help guide me. So I always seek wise counsel, and I try not to make unilateral decisions without talking to advisors, and I think that's very, very important, because a lot of times it's about me, my four, and no more, about my own personal agenda. But, you know, what about the collective agenda? What about talking to
and that's something everybody you picked up with your leadership training?
Yes.
Now the institute, how long was that?
It was a year.
Okay.
A full year. It kind of reminds me of Leadership Tulsa, Montgomery. Leadership Montgomery, you know, all of these.
Okay.
And so this was strictly for Black leaders.
Okay. All right. So you were heavily empowered and probably networked a lot and still have those connections now.
Absolutely. And I want to just share what was significant about the James W. Wright Leadership Institute.
Okay.
The very first session was Saturday, the Saturday after Terence was killed.
Oh my goodness.
So I missed the first session. And their first session was looking at the news and seeing what happened to one of their co-fellow leaders. And when I got to the second session, because we meet every month, you know, the leaders wrapped their arms around me, and I believe that institute, that Leadership Institute, were the tools, and it was the resource that I needed to navigate what I was dealing with, being the voice for my family and being the voice for my community, and understanding authentic leadership and transformational leadership. And so I'm a person of faith, and I always believe that God's timing is divine. And I was selected to be a part of that Leadership Institute with the right mentors around me and the right support for the time that I was in that moment.
Now, how hard was it? I mean, how did you feel when you got the call that your brother had been shot by Tulsa police?
I got the call. I was very numb. I didn't believe it because I hadn't got that call from my mom or dad. My cousin called me, and she lived in Dallas.
Okay.
She wasn't in Tulsa. She just said, hey, I got a call from somebody who saw it. Have you called home? They told me Terence is dead. I think you should. And I just said, hey, I gotta go. And I got numb.
To your colleagues and everybody around you?
I had just got off of work. I was meeting colleagues for dinner and waiting on them to get to the restaurant, but I never saw them because I had to leave.
Yeah.
I immediately paid. I was drinking a glass of wine, paid for it, and I got in my car and started driving. My hands were shaking.
To Tulsa?
No. I called a friend of mine in Chicago, a prayer partner, said, can you just pray for me? I just got a call. I don't know if it's true because I haven't heard from mom or dad.
Okay.
And she said, don't go home. Go over to a friend's house. Went over to my friend Tracy's home, and BJ, my friend from Chicago, stayed on the phone. She's my prayer partner. Tracy was a good prayer partner and my hairstylist. And I was pacing. God, please don't let this be true. Please don't let this be true. And they said I did that for a couple of hours. And then my phone started just ringing, like calls start coming in with 918 area codes, but it wasn't mom or dad. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong, but I wouldn't answer. Finally, maybe after 2 or 3 hours.
You still by yourself?
I'm at Tracy's house.
Tracy, okay.
And I'm on the phone with my friend in Chicago because they won't get off the phone.
That's good you had people around.
And my dad, his number popped up, and BJ said, you need to click over. And I was like, I don't want to click over. And Tracy said, you need to click over. Picked up the phone, and I said, Dad? And on the other end of the phone was, and I still get emotional 7 years later, was my dad screaming and crying hysterically, saying they killed my son. They killed my son. I'm at the hospital, and they won't let me see my son. And I said, who? And he said, the police. And I just kind of lost it. I was big into the killings of Freddie Gray and Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. And never in a million years would I have thought that it would be my family. And so that's when I said, I got to get home because my mom and dad, they're not well. And they said, you can't drive home. So it was late. I got on the first plane smoking, and I said, I cannot let this ride. And I started calling people, and like, I need a lawyer right now. And I called DeMario, who I went to high school with. We've been knowing each other for a long time. He didn't answer the phone. I messaged him on Facebook. He didn't respond. And then my cousin Shay Seals, a lot of people know Shay Seals, went to McLean High School, basketball star, graduated from the University of Tulsa, took TU to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, coached basketball at Booker T, got state championship. Shay Seals, he went to the Lakers, tore up his knee, but
wow, he represented well.
Represented. Good things come out of North Tulsa. My first cousin, my dad's brother's son, he called crying because we all were the same age. We grew up together. I said, Shay, I'm getting ready to get on a plane. I need you to call DeMario.
Okay.
Do not stop until you get in touch with DeMario. And when I finally landed, turned on my phone was ringing. It was DeMario.
So you took action quick.
I said, meet me at the house. And when we got to the house, the homicide detectives were there. And we were trying to make sense. Media was there. Paparazzi was there. It was just a wild scene. Mom's blood pressure was there. And I went on record to say I know Terence was unarmed. And when they released the video and we met with the police officers, he was unarmed, hands in the air, and he wasn't a threat. And that's just when we decided to go on this journey, go to war,
right,
to fight this battle.
Yes. How easy was it? I mean, easy, hard was that to do that, make that transition? You were in Alabama, had created your own practice, had clients, had a whole life outside of Tulsa, and then that happens. How, hard was that to get the gumption to actually, say, ooh, I gotta do this? Was it kind of like innate because of kind of your leadership background and social justice vein?
Was it innate? How hard? I would say it was quite hard because it was like I was thrust. And when you think about twins, you think about this deep, deep, deep connection. Even though I lived in Montgomery and Terence lived in Tulsa, we could feel each other. Terence was jumped and darn near beat to death, where he had to have his right eye surgically removed. I didn't know it at the time, but I was in school studying for a huge test, but my right eye was throbbing all day long. And later that evening, and my parents knew I had this test, and they didn't want to let me know what happened.
Okay.
But they called me after he came out of surgery, after I was done with the test, and said, hey, Terence just came out of surgery. He lost his right eye. And I was broken. And that explained the eye throbbing all the way in Alabama. It explained the excruciating pain in my right eye. And so when you say how hard it was, it's almost like I didn't have a choice. Like when she killed Terence, it's almost like she killed me too. But I had to rise up and overcome that. And there was this fire burning in my belly that I had to put out. Which meant that I had to get some solace, get some form of justice for Terence's precious kids, for my parents. And I found myself dividing my time between Montgomery and Tulsa. In the fight for justice here at home, I felt needed me more.
Yeah.
And I finally transitioned. And believe it or not, Don, I just a couple of weeks ago just finally closed that chapter, moved out of my home and said, hey, I'm officially here in Tulsa.
Wow.
I'm officially here. And
Back in Tulsa.
So it was hard because I built deep relationships and friendships that I'll always cherish in Alabama. And Alabama and Oklahoma similar when you talk about conservative red states, but rich with history, rich with the civil rights movement. Montgomery, birthplace of the civil rights, cradle of the Confederacy. And then you talk about Tulsa, the epicenter of black wealth and the black Mecca, Black Wall Street. However, you're talking about the Confederacy as well, and the Trail of Tears, and the massacre, and the sit-ins, and what else? The sundown towns. So the history
still prevalent racism right now.
Still prevalent, even through institutions and corporations. I call it microaggressive corporate racism that we have to deal with as black leaders. But just being in Montgomery, Alabama, and learning about my rich history and the people who fought for us, and now being in Tulsa and learning about my rich history and my family, and being a direct descendant, it's like, man, I have no choice but to be great because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I mean, they didn't know that they were going to have to walk for 389 days during the Montgomery bus boycott. My grandmother didn't know that all of a sudden she was going to have to flee for her life because of a massacre and racial terror. So who am I? I'm no different. I didn't know that I was going to have to get on the front lines and say enough is enough. We're in a state of emergency as it relates to being black in America, because unarmed black people, it was Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Mike Brown,
Yes.
Terence Crutcher,
Too
Sandra
many.
Bland,
Too many.
just back to back to back during 2016. And so I'm like, when will it stop? When will it stop? And then there's another cohort of people who get killed: Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. And then there's another cohort: Elijah McClain,
Too many.
Tyree Nichols. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
It's a
When
shame.
will it stop? Joshua
Right.
Harvey right here in Tulsa. Joshua Barre right here in Tulsa. When will it stop?
Right. So, I mean, have you ever been shy, like being in the national public eye? Like,
Yes.
I mean, that is a huge deal. Like, you kind of have to like die to self and get up there and speak the truth and fight. So, how did you deal with that? You know?
It was hard because I was very shy as a little girl. I mean, super shy. I mean, and I hate speaking now. I hate public speaking.
Right. Somehow I was too.
I can see that.
I've grown out of it a little bit.
I've grown out of it too. But when you
It's the cause, right?
when you have a why, when you have a reason why, people hear me say this all the time. When you have a reason why and a fire burning in your belly, you have to act.
Yes.
And when it hits close to home, it just strikes differently, and it forces you to get into movement, get into to motion.
Right.
And so I've grown and I've learned, and I think it's his kids, Terrence Jr., Tajane, Takaya, that gives me the courage to keep speaking out against the injustices. And now Takaya has a little boy, Terrence's first grandson.
Okay.
My grandnephew.
So you're
They
a great
give me-
aunt.
My great aunt or grand aunt.
Okay.
You know, if that was my kid, I would be a grandma. But like,
Yes.
they give me the courage to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And so,
The generation under. You probably see Terrence in there.
oh my gosh, spitting images. Have you seen Terrence Jr. over at
Yeah,
Lacey Park?
right.
Because we both were honored with the Kwanzaa Award, the Unsung Hero Awards.
Exactly.
Alongside-
That was an honor for me. I was
It was
like,
an honor for me too.
I'm the youngest one up here, and you're doing great work. And so I just feel humbled because all I'm doing is just the work, you know, and I'm not really.
If you're doing the work, you're doing great work.
I'm not expecting an award, so that was just nice.
Don't ever diminish yourself. You're just doing work.
Ooh, I said I'm doing the work.
You're doing the work, and it's great work. It's great
Thank
work, and it's needed. And I don't think that committee and Joyce Williams would have honored you if it wasn't great work and consistent work. And for me, I don't do it for awards or recognition. I just work too. And I try to just outwork the work and know that, you know, hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard. Hard work beats talent, because there's a lot of talented people that they just get the call. They get the nod. They get the nod, and so because they're already talented, they have a slight edge. But if they are talented and don't work hard, I'm gonna outwork you.
Right.
And
if they don't move out of their comfort zones, you know, oftentimes they can get shocked once they do, you know, hit levels of higher, you know, greatness. So it's good to diversify, and which you did. You left Tulsa. You were able to meet profound people and learn of our ancestors and our history, which I'm sure is helping you like right now. Yeah. So we're talking about all the work now. I want to ask you, what do you do for fun? What do you do to relax?
I love going out to eat. I'm like a foodie.
All right.
So I love to go out to eat and have really great conversations with people I love.
Blessed is food I'm about to receive, but Lord, I pray that these calories don't mess with my physique. I've been working all year to be strong and lean.
I love to travel.
Okay.
I do, and I love to just hang out with family.
All
I
right.
love when my aunts come over and we get to just talk all about it.
Yeah.
And so I love that. So I think those are the things. I haven't had a lot of fun lately because I've been busy.
Okay.
And so I made a commitment this year that I'm going to start really changing up my cadence and focusing on the things that bring me joy.
Right.
Because I've been focusing on everybody else, the community, family, but what brings me joy.
Right.
And I'm really excited to explore what some of those things may be still, as I still learn and travel to new places and just have a little fun.
Yeah, you definitely got to take a break.
The work continues, though.
Yeah,
the work continues.
I mean, politics will always be real. You know, social injustice in America will always be real. So you have to take a pivot, take a beat.
Yep,
you know,
take a beat.
Yeah, and do something. Have you taken a family trip with your travel with your family? Has that been?
We have not, but we did it every year when before Terence was killed, before Mom died of COVID.
Okay.
We traveled. I mean, my dad and Mom, they always took us on road trips. That was just a thing.
Yeah.
But we haven't been on a cruise together because of the pandemic.
Right.
And the pandemic put a damper on everything. But we did travel to Alabama again.
Okay.
Since Mom has passed, we all got in the car and just took that road trip. But that was just something that was common for us, traveling, hopping in the car, and Dad drove us across the country.
When's the last place you've been? Like by yourself or with a friend? Or
the last place I've been, I've been so many places I can't even remember.
For leisure. Like, I know
I'm getting ready to go to the Super Bowl in a few
Okay,
weeks.
where's that going to be?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay, all right.
Get ready to go to the Super Bowl.
Is it cold there?
I think it's going to be warm.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, it's the West Coast.
That sounds exciting.
So yeah, there's going to be
Who's
a
playing?
lot
The Chiefs is playing, right?
I
the
don't
Chiefs
know.
won?
I don't know who's going to make it to the Super Bowl.
Okay, I don't even know the process.
I think now the Chiefs have to play.
Because I did see they won.
I think San Francisco and the Lions have to play.
Okay.
The Detroit Lions. So I can't remember. But,
Who you rooting for? Anybody?
Well, if the Chiefs are still in it, I'm going for the Chiefs.
Okay. Okay.
I was hoping that the Cowboys could have
they out.
made it, but so I'm going for
So
the
you're
Chiefs.
a Cowboys fan, okay?
I've been off and on that bandwagon. I mean, for years. So
that energy is gonna be dope. And then Usher's performing.
Yeah.
Like wow.
Yeah, he's performing. And
That's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be nice.
That's gonna be fun.
I'll be right there.
Watch this.
And, there's the NFL honors that I have the privilege to go to.
I saw that in your resume, so you're associated with them. NFL Racial Equity and Social Justice Council.
So I advise the NFL on social justice and racial equity. So
Man.
I'm a part of a four-person council.
Yeah.
A four-person council.
Okay.
And
So it's rather small.
it's very small, and we all know that the NFL has had a lot of problems, and we can just kind of just track it back to let's start with Colin Kaepernick. But
Yes.
when you look at hiring, when you look at
Ownership,
when you look at the amount of black coaches, when you look at the amount of women, you've started to see women on the sidelines, you've started to see women on ESPN.
So how long has
and all
this
of that.
council been?
This is
alive?
going on my, I believe, third year.
Okay.
And I can say that there's been a lot of changes
Okay.
for the better. A lot of practices and policies being changed, and a lot of effort
Yes.
being put forth to figure out how we increase the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was very apprehensive when I was asked to join this council because I didn't want to be a rubber stamp. I actually boycotted the NFL because when Kaepernick took a knee, he took a knee for my brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we're blackballing him, and now we're allowing harmful narratives and dominant narratives to say, oh, we're disrespecting America, we're disrespecting the flag. And it was simply a gesture to stand in solidarity with the families who lost people they love to
for justice.
State sanctioned violence. And so, you know, a lot of times we'll get cloudy and get caught up when the facts are the facts. And so I just couldn't do it. And so then when they asked me to do it, I'm like, can I really change mindsets of billionaire owners? And people ask me, what can you change? What can you influence? And so, you know, we get to...
So do you feel like you are, you know, those 3 years?
Yeah, I think the 3 years.
That's very, you know.
Well, inspire change.
You see, like, visible effects of this council?
I do when it comes to, you know, where dollars, because the NFL has a foundation and they have the Inspire Change initiative where they made like a multi-million-dollar commitment to community organizations doing the work of education, social justice, economic justice.
Right.
And we get to look at organizations on ground doing the work. And say, hey, let's shift money here. Because at times we're talking about, you know, the Red Cross or the United Negro College. But what about the grassroots organizations?
The ones that always get the funding.
Yeah, and so just really being able to push in those areas.
That's amazing work.
It's subtle, but you have to take baby steps and take chunks out of the elephant. Take baby chunks out of the elephant. And so I will say this, if I get to a place and I feel that I don't see incremental change taking place and I don't see mindsets changing, it means that it's time for me to go. And we've been very clear. I've been very clear with my sort of expectations. And
so y'all gonna meet? Y'all gonna meet in Las Vegas, the council? You know?
Yeah, we will meet because you know we're in 4 different states. We have one of the council members. I'm the only woman. One of the council members is in New York. One is in Virginia. One is in Atlanta at Morehouse College, and then I'm in Oklahoma.
All right.
So we will get together.
So it's business and fun.
I would say it's really
life.
all fun, but it gives us an opportunity to assess the platform. And I didn't realize that the NFL was such a large machine. And I was able to assess the platform to look at, like, maybe we can do better here. Maybe we could do better on the ground, you know, with some service projects when the NFL comes and the Super Bowl comes to these communities. Maybe we could carve out a whole section for a community, you know, and things of that nature because it's very expensive. And so being able to truly assess the platform, the light bulb came on for me when I went to my first Super Bowl and I saw all of the fans. I realized that, you know what? When we say boycott the NFL, these fans aren't going to boycott. They love their teams. They don't care if they're...
to be entertained.
And they don't care if their coaches are red, black, blue, or green. And that's when I realized that the change is going to happen at the internal level. And so that was a big wake-up call, and I'm glad I was able to go. Roger Goodell invited us, just come and assess the platform for us and give your feedback. And so we all realized it's going to happen internally.
Sounds like this tragedy really opened a lot of doors, you know, for your personal life's work. Sounds like, you know, there's some silver lining in it.
I would say I kicked down a lot of doors. Because when you think think about this work, a lot of times you have people speaking for you. A lot of times you have people trying to celebritize pain and exploit tragedy.
Leaders in the community.
Yeah. And I really wanted justice. I really wanted policy change. So I went and sought out people that could help me, like the Human Rights Watch and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund.
You didn't wait.
I didn't go to the celebrities and the athletes and things of that nature. I went to people who were doing policy work. Help me, guide me, advise me. And I kept saying, this is what I want, and I was consistent with that. And I think when people...
Was it tough?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it's tough. And it's still tough trying to find your voice and not let the lawyers speak for you. Not let the major civil rights leaders speak for you. How do you find your voice? And I had to find my voice and say, hey, this is our vision, not Ben Crump's vision, not Demario Solomon Simmons' vision, not Reverend Al Sharpton's vision, not the athlete Russell Westbrook, or this is the vision that we want to cast as people who's been impacted by this issue. And don't get me wrong, with those people, they've been very supportive and they've been very helpful and they've walked with us on this journey, but I was able to find my voice,
Right.
which is important. And so it wasn't just easy, because people like to jump on bandwagons when they see celebrities and influencers.
And that can be distracting.
Yeah, and so for me, it was like just gradually run the race.
Did you ever get caught up, like at any point? And I also think about maybe your spiritual relationship, and kind of being able to be balanced and centered within yourself to even realize that, right? Does that make sense?
If you could kind of reframe it, did I ever get caught up in
like
what?
with the limelight, even, or certain celebrities or certain opportunities coming, and then identifying that it's not about the celebrities, right? What you just talked about. Did your spiritual relationship, could you allude to that any?
Yeah.
How that helped you stay strong
And stay grounded.
Yes.
I never got caught up with the celebrities, the influencers. I remember Bishop Carlton Pearson would text me and say, "You are the quietest, loudest person I've ever seen." And he was watching me when we brought the president to town. And everybody who was somebody was in the cultural center when the president came to town during the centennial.
Biden?
It was Joe Biden. He came to town, and he was the first sitting president to acknowledge what happened 100 years ago. And he came at my invitation back in 21.
I was over at Vernon AME Church across the street watching, and I was like, "Whoa, Biden." He memorized like something. I was like, "Whoa."
Well, everybody has a teleprompter.
It was a teleprompter? Okay.
It's always a teleprompter. There's speech writers.
Okay, yeah.
There's speech writers, but, I think he echoed the voices. He met with the survivors more than what any other president has done.
He didn't talk about reparations, though.
He didn't talk about reparations, and I was not happy about it. And he did everything and said everything but reparations. And I did an op-ed saying, this is what I told President Biden, because me and my dad welcomed him, and we said, hey, these survivors need reparations before they die. We need justice for Terence. I just laid it out.
Yeah.
And I said reparations. And he was like, okay. And I just knew that he was going to say reparations, but he didn't.
In his speech.
And we're still pushing.
So you spoke with him before that speech?
Yeah, we welcomed him to Tulsa, me and my father.
Yeah, okay.
So when he came, me and my father were standing side by side, and he came in and
At the Cultural Center.
At the Cultural Center, and we were the first people, and he met with me and my father.
Right.
And then he went and met with the survivors, and then he came and did his speech. And so I say that to answer your question. There was so many people in there. And I was just sort of in a corner. I was in my office hiding, and Bishop was like, "You're not all in everybody's face. You're just, you're just like, I'm ready for this to be over with."
Right.
And thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
But
and
you understand how important it is for these
to amplify our story.
Right.
And that's really what the celebrities are for. That's what the civil rights leaders are for. They are simply here. They simply come to put a spotlight and help us amplify our story.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the big platforms, we wouldn't be able to do it. And I think that was the strategy. I got to get somebody that's going to make some noise and make them hear us.
So you brought Biden here? You invited him here? Okay. Nice.
Help plan his trip and everything.
Okay. Wow. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Look at that. She's the one. Okay. What would you feel like is your biggest accomplishment to date? I know it's kind of hard.
My biggest accomplishment to date?
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard.
There's so many layers of my life and so many chapters. I really can't call it, but I will say being able to still be here standing 7 years later after all of the pain and trauma and tragedy, to be able to still be standing, it's an accomplishment within itself. And for God to use the foundation the way that He has to truly walk out the principles of Kwanzaa,
Yes.
to truly walk out the principles of community, to truly walk out the blueprint that our ancestors left on Black Wall Street, and to see it start to unfold in the form of property, in the form of sharing resources with community members.
Yeah, I want to not break you off.
Yeah, but that's one of my biggest accomplishments.
I want to thank you for granting Underground Tree Studios and the Evergreen Youth Arts Festival this last October for our festival. And so, you know, we had a nice budget, and that definitely helped. And I'm just thankful for you. You know, you see me, you support me, and I'm just honored that you're in Tulsa and you're a Black woman, and you know, you have a smile on your face, you're not beat down, which you could be 7 years later.
Child, I'm beat down. I'm
going
beat
through
down.
the washing machine, you know. No, you're not.
I am, but you know, I have to just keep my mind.
What you mean you
fed.
are?
I'm tired. I'm truly exhausted.
Yeah.
This is not easy, and I have to detox my
Yeah.
mind every day. And so,
Send some positive messages.
please,
You know,
I'm
pray.
Pray,
Pray. You know, if you have a resort somewhere, offer it up. You know,
yeah.
let's go. Okay.
So I'll be there, and I'm getting ready to go on a retreat to in Santa Cruz to a
Okay.
off-site sort of outdoorish
Yeah. That sounds
space.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
How long are you
excited
gonna
about
be
that.
there?
About 7 days.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay.
About
Take it
7
all
days.
in.
I'm going to take it all in for wellness, and
Good,
so
good.
And then my team, we're
Yes.
going to be going to Los Angeles for our staff retreat and wellness retreat.
Okay.
I'm learning how to incorporate wellness into the work, because we won't be able to sustain this work if we don't.
No, you
And
won't.
so it's very, very important.
Right.
But you know,
Self care is very important, because you got to be able to continue, you know, with good attitude, feeling good about yourself. So I take my self care very seriously, and it's not for me. You know, I don't have a whole bunch of money or nothing like that, not yet. But you know, simple things. You know, like I enjoy a long bath. You know, or walking through the forest. You know, things that I know
You are
will
a
feed
nature
my
person.
spirit. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It be the simple things.
Yeah, I remember just going back to the micro grant and supporting you and so many other organizations.
Yes.
I remember when you first came into the office, you were kind of like, man, where's the support? Where's the support?
I'm still like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I told you that I would do my best to share opportunities and resources when they came across my lap, and I've tried to be a woman of my word, and
Right.
and
I
like
personally
said,
wanted to be in alignment with someone who was doing real social justice work, because there's a lot of people who around Tulsa specifically who talk a lot. I first got here 2017, I believe, back here as an adult. And I'm attending every meeting, town hall, this, that, going to the Roots Hill Library, everywhere, right? And I'm not seeing any motion, no movement, no economics being, given, shade everywhere. Like, if you really ask me, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not only an artist. I own a business. I was doing graphics and web design at the time. And I really just saw like the mentality of Tulsa, and I said, "Where's Black Wall Street? Where it at?" And so to be in alignment with a Black woman who was mobilizing and doing stuff, it empowered me just to sit down and talk to you.
Wow.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Kept me going. Oklahoma has one of the largest suicide rates. We're like 7th in the nation. So for me, conversations like that are important to uplift me and keep me motivated.
Yeah,
So I wasn't, necessarily seeking funding or anything like that. It's very important to be able to, provide and eat and pay your rent and things like that. But that wasn't the main reason, for wanting to be aligned with you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I got it.
Okay.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So what do you have? What is something you have in store for the future?
Well, this year is jam-packed. It's jam-packed. Like, my calendar is really full already.
Yeah.
we bought this building, North Point.
Okay, yeah.
Shopping center.
Off of Pine.
205 East Pine and MLK on the northwest boundary of the historic.
That's dope, because they're
Greenwood.
Yeah.
District, and
yes.
I think that's really one of our priorities, figuring out how we revitalize that place where it can become a bright spot for North Tulsa, and we want to definitely be in alignment with the other development that's coming around that area. You got Boomtown and McGee Enterprises and 2020 Management that just did a groundbreaking to create Black, I think, Wall Street Square right there off of MLK. You know, Black led. I'm excited about that. You have Jim, you know, Greenwood Entrepreneurship at Moton. You see that happening, led by Councilwoman Vanessa Harper, Rose Washington, and so many others in the community. Then you're talking about Kirkpatrick Heights master plan that a lot of people in the community help with community engagement, whether it's World One Development and Standpipe Health Strategies and Partner Tulsa and community leaders who came together in community to sort of help build this master plan for the remaining acres of Greenwood. And so there's a lot of development happening. And North Point, we want to be a part of it. We want to be in alignment with that, because it's just right there. It's right there, that corridor, the gateway into North Tulsa, the gateway into downtown. And so we want to make sure that we're able to get that building to a high standard of excellence.
When I heard that you bought it, I was like, okay, I'm down with that. You know, the political scene in Tulsa is crazy.
It's still crazy.
Yes, and there's just a lot of, I feel like, ill-managed projects that aren't led by Black people, you know. And then I've seen projects be presented that never come to fruition, you know. And so for you to be mobilizing, that's great.
Well, I just pray, and it's going to take all of us to see all of these projects come to fruition. Everything I just named, it takes all of us. You know, we want to see it, and so it's going to take you. It's going to take community. It's going to take donations. It's going to take everybody being positive and understanding and being patient. But you're right. You know, I've seen people go to these town halls and voice what they want to see for their community, and they get older and older and older, and the carrot is dangled. And so I'm hoping that now is the time for us to finally see some progress, and we're going to have to continue, because there's a tax right now on Blackness. There's a tax on diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a tax on Black history.
Affirmative action.
There's a tax on affirmative action. There's a tax on Black leaders. And so I just think that we have to come together more than ever before and figure out what our agenda is, and stay true to it, and stop allowing people to conquer and divide. And it means you got to start with you. You got to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what do you see? And you're going to see two things. You're going to see the problem or the solution. You have to decide what you want to be a part of. Will you be a part of the solution, or will you be a part of the problem? Being a part of the problem is complaining. They not doing this. They not doing that. Well, I haven't seen growth. Okay, if you haven't seen that, and I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the people that's listening, then what are you going to do about it? What steps are you going to take? What donations are you going to make? What meetings are you going to show up to? What relationships are you going to build? And so when you look in the mirror, you have to do the mirror work and ask yourself, will I be a part of the problem, or will I be a part of the solution?
There we go.
I try not to be around people that's always complaining about what's not happening. Do something about it. Be the change. Be the change. Be the change.
There we go. I know I've had to self-reflect in that same way. Definitely. Well, Dr. Crutcher, I want to thank you for being here, gracing us with that wisdom, and please continue, and I'm going to pray for you. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you continuing to do the work, even when you have to retreat and restore yourself, but still trying to come out and promote Black art, because I think about Black artists, I think about Ebony Easley, I think about all of you all, and everybody kind of has their own spaces and their own lanes and your own styles, but our children don't get that right now. So what you've done at Lacey for the last several years, no matter what, no matter who shows up, you create a space for that community. That is important. And those kids come out and they have fun. You create a space for vendors to come and sell their stuff. That is important when you can create those spaces for a community. And who wouldn't want to support something like that?
Thanks for tuning in to Rooted Voices. I'm your host, Dawn Tree. Rooted Voices is a global broadcast that provides a platform for Americans that own something, be it equity in the community, a business, real estate, and even intellectual property. Moving closer to changing our communities. Outside of hosting Rooted Voices, I am exhibiting my abstract surrealist paintings, organizing youth art programs, speaking about Black Wall Street with my graphic art history book, traveling, and most important, self-caring.
Airing the first and last Saturday of each month at 11 a.m. For more information, contact Dawn Tree on all social media platforms at Underground Tree, or visit our website at utreep.com or by phone at 405-310-7291. Rooted Voices is an Underground Tree Studios production, heard exclusively on Urban Radio Tulsa Online.